Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. This podcast is going to walk you through my journey into mediumship and how I came to realize that I could communicate with souls that have passed over. My adventure started just over a year ago when unusual situations started happening to me. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention to them that it all started to come together. I wrote down everything that I was experiencing this past year in a little black book, and this podcast is going to be a recap of all of those memories leading up to where I am today in my mediumship journey. I will be releasing new episodes every Tuesday, and I recommend listening to the podcast in order, starting with episode 1, as my story will unfold more week by week. If you would like to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at mediuminthemiddle. Hi guys, welcome back to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and this is episode 27. I am back after taking last week off. To be honest, life just got a little crazy, and I didn't want to say no to real life experiences in order to record the podcast. So just finding balance with this passion project and also still living and being a human being. At the same time, learning how to balance my new schedule of more Reiki and teaching yoga and working part-time at my job and doing the podcast and starting YouTube and planning events. So it's been a lot of balls in my hand at the same time, but I'm learning to juggle and it's getting better. So I'm back, and I hope that the week off gave you some time to catch up on the podcast if you had missed a few episodes. And also I wanted to take this time to welcome all of my new listeners. I really appreciate you tuning in to my journey and following along. So happy to have you here. So I do want to fill you in on a few things that have happened. I taught my first Reiki Level 1 course with another Reiki master, which was incredible. We did a 2-day course, and it was magical and perfect, and everything went off without a hitch. It was like I've been doing this for 10 years, especially with the woman that I facilitated it with. It was everything I wanted it to be and more. So I am excited to be teaching more Reiki this year. More will be coming if you're in the Banff area. Also, I really appreciate everyone that has sent me a message that through my podcast or through my story, they have been inspired to take a Reiki course, or they have taken their Reiki course, signed up for a Reiki course. I love hearing these messages. They actually make my heart so happy, and they bring a smile to my face. And just exposing Reiki to more people is definitely one of the main focuses of this podcast, to make energy more relatable and more normal and just in an everyday conversation. So the fact that people have been taking their Reiki Level 1 because of me is, I hate to say even because of me, but inspired by me and my story and my podcast. And it just makes me so happy. So if you have done that, or even if you've done it and you haven't told me, that's incredible. And I'm excited for all of you to embark on your own journeys. I've also started doing Reiki more as a part-time. So instead of 1 day a week, I'm now doing 3 or 4 days a week. So that's been really exciting. And again, thank you to the podcast listeners who have come to see me. It's been incredible, the people that I've been able to connect with. So if you've come to see me from Banff or Calgary or any of the surrounding areas, thank you so much. And if you want to come see me, send me a message and I will send you my booking link, because I am realizing that this is actually an incredible reach to meet new people and connect with souls that I'm meant to connect with. Feeling very grateful these past few weeks as Reiki is kind of opening up to me and giving me new opportunities. Okay, so before I jump into this episode, let's pull a card, because I need a little bit of guidance. I haven't pulled a card, I think, all week, and I'm sure you folks need to hear something too. So I'm going to shuffle up my oracle card deck and see what card we get. I like when I'm shuffling the deck and the card literally jumps out at me. So I decided to pull one card for me and one card for you, but both of them can apply to you or your life or what you need to hear right now, but I just had the feeling that I needed to pull 2 cards today. So the first one that I pulled, my intention was for me, and it's very fitting, especially with what I just shared. It is card number 12, Slow and Steady. Slow and steady wins the race. Remember the old cliche, slow and steady wins the race? This is a time for easy movement, unhurried steps, and a steady heart. Trust that taking life at a more leisurely pace will give you greater access to your dreams. Slowing down allows more contact with the juicier elements of your life. Savor them. This is so funny and so what I needed to hear this week. I had realized in my 3 weeks of kind of entrepreneurship, about balancing all these jobs, that I hadn't booked myself a day off. So on Thursday, I had a day off and it was magical. And today I have a half day off, which is also magical. So slow and steady is definitely what I need to hear, and that I do still need to enjoy things as they happen and not work my life away. Okay, the card that I pulled for you, the listeners, if the first one didn't resonate with you, this card is called Protecting Treasure. You are always protected and divinely directed. Although this is a time of great risk, know that at a fundamental level you are able to move forward safely and securely. The proverbial nest egg is safe and sound no matter the fluctuations in the world. Guardian angels and other guides are whispering to you, making you aware of their protective presence. Your loyalty is an important theme now. Nurture that which you hold dear. This is a good time to strengthen bonds of friendship and ensure their integrity. If you feel tested right now, know that a true and loyal heart always achieves its aim. Take refuge under an angel's wing. You are not alone and have no need to fear. Embrace your courage. Ooh, so I hope one of those 2 cards resonated with you. I like to pull a card just to ask the universe what I need to hear. I usually like to only pull 1 card. My friends and I were talking about this just yesterday, about going to see someone to read your cards for you. And we were talking about local people in town and who does what and who they prefer to go see. And I was saying that I don't need to really go see someone else to read my cards because I have the ability to do it, and I like to just pull 1 card. I will only do a full spread, a full card reading for myself, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, like once a quarter. I just don't want to get dependent on asking the cards for answers or looking for what I need to know. I still want to experience life. It's only when I need a little bit of help from the universe or when I want to know I'm on the right track. So pulling 1 card every few days or a card a day just helps me know, yep, that's exactly what I needed to hear today, and keep moving. So it was an interesting discussion that we had just with going to see someone for a card reading, how often you should go. And my personal opinion is that you should go to see someone for a card reading if you like their energy and their ability to storytell, because it is really just your connection with the cards. It's your energy on the cards. So the cards don't change, but someone's ability to explain the cards to you and tell you the story of how they're related and what they might mean and how that applies to your life. That's something that I do find value in. So I have gotten my cards read before once in my life, and I do think it is an interesting experience that everyone should try out. But as I said, I do prefer the 1 card pull, just to give you that little nudge in the right direction. Okay, so let's get into today's episode. So we are getting close to the end of the Little Black Book. So what I've switched over to now is typing, because I can usually have time to get to my computer to write things down, whereas before it was happening so often that I would actually keep the Little Black Book in my purse so that I could write it down in the moment right after so I didn't forget. But now I've switched to, I have just 1 long document. It's like 48 pages, and I just write whenever something happens. So the end of my Little Black Book is coming near, and also we are getting very close to where I am today. So when the podcast first started, it was all of my stories up until today, but it was my stories from the beginning. So they very much had the wow factor for me of this has never happened before. And now as I'm working with more clients and doing this more often, I think I'm getting more used to it, where I'm not as shocked when I know someone's name and their relation, and I can tell you how they passed away, and I can tell you how old they were and what their hair was. That was very normal for me. So in my sessions this past week, I've been focusing on paying attention to what's going on in them, because it's kind of an out-of-body experience for me. But I need to pay attention because cool, amazing things are still happening in my appointments. I'm just not writing them down anymore because it's almost like I expect them to happen. And I always think, well, this is normal and it's not worth a podcast episode. But some of these things are not normal, and I know that they're incredible stories that my listeners would like to hear. So this week, I've definitely been paying more attention and noting down what has been happening in my sessions, because that spark and that magic is still there. But for me, I've kind of gotten used to it, which seems outrageous. If you would have asked me 2 years ago that I'd be used to this, I would have laughed my head off. But as I work with more clients and it's becoming so much more regular, it is becoming my new normal. Mediumship is just part of my everyday life. Knowing things is just who I am. My friends expect it now. The people that are coming to see me expect it now, either through this podcast or through friend referrals. So it's been a journey. And as this shifts and change, the podcast will also be changing. So I will also be interviewing other people. I want to add in more question and answer for you guys. I also am going to be bringing on people who have had experiences with me and get their side of the story. So for me, I kind of tell it in a this is what happened kind of way. Then I sent them on their way, and I don't know what happened afterwards, but I'm going to be asking some people to come onto the podcast who have been on the receiving end and kind of be like, what was that experience for you like, especially when you weren't coming to me for a mediumship reading? So these stories, a lot of them have been people weren't coming to me for a mediumship reading. They were just standing close to me or beside me in a yoga class, or they walked into my work unknowingly, where now clients are coming, knowing what to expect, knowing what I do, knowing that they could have this experience, so it's less of a shock factor. So just adding more dimensions to this podcast and getting different perspectives. And I also want to continue to share more knowledge and information about Reiki and about mediumship. Okay, so now that I've said all of those things, let's get to today's story. In our timeline here, I am still visiting in Ontario. So the last episode was what happened when I went to my dad's house. So now I am at my mom's house, and it's Thanksgiving dinner again. And I was having a lot of cousins and friends come over. So this is a story that happened when I was at my mom's house on Thanksgiving. So I want to start off by saying what happened the night before. So I was sleeping in my old room, and in the middle of the night, I was woken up by this sound, and it kind of sounded like a giggle, and it kept saying, "Kiss me, kiss me." And I was like, what the hell? Looking around the room, and I couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from. So I go back to bed, and this happens a few more times in the night, and I was too lazy to get out of bed. I was like, okay, it's either spirit or it's something weird going on in the room, but this is weird. So the next morning I wake up and I find these two little dolls, and they're a teddy bear, and when you press their noses together, they giggle and they say, "Kiss me." And I got it as a Valentine's Day gift probably 13 years ago. So the batteries are dying, so now it sounds a little distorted, so it's not a cute hee kiss me. It's like hee kiss me. And it's a little weird and scary. So in the morning, I found these little teddy bear things, and I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. It was why it was going off last night, because it's here. But it only makes sound when the noses are touching, and the noses weren't touching. So I was like, that's weird that it randomly went off in the middle of the night when the noses aren't touching. And then I tried to do it again in the morning, but I thought maybe the battery died. So I was like, oh, the battery died, so they're not working anymore. And maybe that's why it went off when their noses weren't touching last night. So I kept it in the room because I figured the battery was dead and it wasn't going to do it again. And that day, I wasn't able to get it to make the sound, so I figured it was dead. So that night I went back to sleep, and it did it again. It started saying, kiss me in the middle of the night. And it was like giggling to the point that it woke me up. And at this point I was freaked out because I thought, okay, yesterday I couldn't get it to make the sound again. And I thought the battery was dying. And that's why the sound sounds distorted. And then I was just thinking, and if it is spirit, like who would it be? And I immediately thought of my grandpa. He used to always say, kiss me. That was something that he used to say, but he would say it in Lebanese. So he would say, busni, busni. And that means kiss me, kiss me. And I would do it to him when he was sleeping, and I would like kiss him on the cheek, kiss him on the cheek. And it was just like our thing. So the next morning I was like, Mom, like, Jiddu's here because last night the dolls went off again and they were saying kiss me, and he used to always say kiss me. And I brought her down the dolls and I pushed their noses together and I said, look, they won't make the sound anymore. I was like, they only made it last night and the night before. So that was a heebie-jeebie moment for me because my grandpa has never come through to me. He's come through for a message for my grandma once, but I've never gotten any other information from him. So the fact that he woke me up 2 nights in a row when I was like in my bedroom at my mom's house was kind of freaky, but it was really cool. Okay, so that was the aside story. The real story is my cousin had a partner who passed away, and she always asked me, is there anyone around me? Is there anyone around me? And she'll lean in close, and I always said no. And I was like, no, no one's around you. And she would say, well, if you have anything to tell me, you better tell me. And I said, yes, I will tell you if he comes through with any information. So we were downstairs in the kitchen talking to my mom, and we were going through some stuff, and her and my mom were sitting down. And all of a sudden I looked up at her and I said, oh my God, he's here. And she's like, who's here? I'm like, you know who's here. And I was like, he's ready to talk now. And she was like, don't mess with me, Steph. And I said, I'm not messing with you. I'm serious. Did he look like this, this, and this? And I did see a picture of him once, so I kind of knew what he looked like. And she was like, yeah. And I said, okay, like, let's go upstairs because I think he's ready to talk. So we went upstairs to my room, and I had her lay down on my bed so that I could start doing Reiki. For me, the easiest way to get spirit to talk is by doing Reiki, and it's a lot easier if I can touch you. So usually, especially if you do come for a Reiki session and a spirit does come through with a message, I'm usually holding like your arm or your hand or your thumb. I don't know why, but that's just usually where I end up. So she's laying on my bed and I'm holding her elbow and her thumb, and I just start to talk. I'm repeating everything that the spirit is telling me. So the way that I describe how this happens is it's kind of like a movie playing out in my head, and then I describe the movie. So it's similar to like deaf charades where I don't exactly know what's going on, but I can tell you what I see. And I usually ask the sitter to just say yes or no if things make sense, and not to coach me in any way or give me any information. Just let me know if it makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense, I will try to get more clarity on it. So I said, okay, he's showing me like a kitchen and a dining room table. And I said, on the dining room table, there's girls on one side and boys on the other side. I said, there's 3 girls on the one side of the table. 2 of them are wearing a hijab and 1 of them isn't. And there's also a small boy on this side of the table, maybe 7 to 10 years old. I said, on the other side of the table, there's 4 guys. And he wants all the people at the table to know that he's watching over them. And I said, they're sitting at a brown kitchen table, and the kitchen is also brown. So like the cupboards are brown. Everything is like brown, like wood. And his room is facing the back of the house. So I'm not sure if this is his house or the house they used to live in, but his room faces the back of the house, like it's on top of the kitchen. Then he said he wants his mom to know that he doesn't show up as much as she would like, but he's still there watching over her. And his main message for his mom was that even if they don't know that he's there watching over them always. And then I go back to the kitchen analogy, and I said the chairs were brown wood and the sink is behind the table and it's to the left of the door. And when you walk into the kitchen, you're walking into the back of the house and the door leads right into the kitchen. And my cousin said, okay, like this is the house they used to live in. Like that's what you're describing. And she said the men on the one side of the table, that would probably be his dad and his brothers. And the girls on the other side of the table are his mom and his sister. And me, I would be the one not wearing the hijab. And the small boy with us on the girls' side is his little brother. And I said, okay, so it must be his family sitting at their kitchen table at their old house. And I say, he's talking about his old room and he wants to know what they did to it, like what happened because it's not there anymore. I said, I feel confused because it's like my room's not there anymore. And she said, yeah, like they moved. After he passed away, they moved houses, so his room isn't there anymore. And I said, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. So then he wants them to know that he knows that they moved. And he also wanted to acknowledge that someone has his earrings. So I guess he used to have a pair of earrings that he wore, and he wants whoever has them to know that he has their earrings. And she said, okay, I will tell them. She's like, I don't know who has their earrings, but someone probably has them. So after this session, a lot of the information didn't fully make sense to my cousin, so she decided to text it to his sister because they were still very close friends. So she was texting her all the information saying that, hey, your brother came through, this is what he said. He was talking about the room and the kitchen and the brothers and the sisters and mom and dad and the old house and the new house and who has his earrings. And she said, oh, mom has the earrings. She took them afterwards. And I want to read the text messages to you because my cousin screenshotted to me what his sister said after she had sent her all the information that I said. So the screenshot from his sister, she said, when she comes back, I want to see her, like when I come back to Ontario. And then she responded to one of the messages where my cousin was writing everything that I said. So the one thing that I can see here, it says, okay, he said there are 3 girls on the one side of the table, one with no hijab and a small boy 7 to 10 years old. There are 4 guys on the ... So I can't see what the rest of the message said, but it's her explaining everything that I said to her, to the sister of the soul who passed away. And then the sister responded, so crazy, she's so on point with everything. And then my cousin responded, yeah, I'm trying to think what happened to his room. I can't think of anything. And then the sister responded, we removed all of his stuff, when we moved, so in the new house he wouldn't have a room. So it was really cool when I got that message because my cousin wasn't sure about some of the information, but when she relayed it to his sister, it all made sense for her. So that was really nice just to get that reassurance that the message got to the right person and that we knew that she would tell her mom and it would bring them some peace because they had been wanting to hear from him. And my cousin had been asking me about him for a very long time. So that was a really cool experience that happened. That was probably one of the bigger things that happened when I was home. A few other little things that happened were cool as well, but not quite podcast worthy. So I hope you enjoyed this story. As of next episode, we are very close to present. So my black book is complete. My past stories are all complete. We are kind of going to be going into how my everyday life is now and things that I experience every day working in this field. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so that you will be notified when I release new episodes every Tuesday. If you have a moment, I would really appreciate a rating and a review on iTunes. If you scroll down to the bottom of the screen, there is a spot to leave 5 stars and a little comment to review. You can say anything, and it really helps me out to help other people in the podcast world find me. Again, if you want to stay connected with me, you can follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. And I also just got a Facebook page, Medium in the Middle. If you would like, all my content is also posted on that page. Stay tuned for a YouTube Medium in the Middle page as well, where you can actually see my face, and I'm going to be telling these stories just as if we're sitting down having coffee with each other. Again, thank you for listening. My name is Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle podcast. Every Tuesday, I release a new episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.